Okay. All right. So Leah Nash and Eliza Bloom Robinson, we're having a little discussion today, a part of a holistic business assessment. This is something that I take clients through when we're doing kind of the whole makeover process, and this is a really key piece of it. So a lot of times I'll even do it kind of as a forerunner, even if we're not going through the entire process, because we get a lot of clarity from stepping through an assessment like this. Now, what's different about this assessment is that I work with elemental inner design with my clients and with their businesses, and so we're going to weave pieces of that into this assessment. And it's, like I said before, it's a holistic assessment. So it's not just where's the business at, where are the goals, you know, that kind of thing. You're here, you want to go there, you know, that type of assessment. But it weaves a lot more in from the personal side as well, from all aspects of our life. Does that make sense for you?
It does. So I think what I heard you say was we're going to look at my elemental design and also my business's elemental design. And that's a brand new idea to me, Leah. So I'm real curious to see how you're going to weave that. And yeah. I'm just so hopeful they're identical, right?
Wouldn't that be interesting? All right.
Wouldn't that be?
No, I got to tell you though, sometimes when they are identical, it just kind of doubles the challenge.
Oh, so, okay, good.
Double the strength and double the challenge. So, you know, there's always something, right? There's always something, and that's good, and that's the challenge of it, right? So there's that.
Right.
So real quickly, because you and I have talked about elemental inner design before, but I know that some people may be watching this that have no clue what that is. So really quickly, the way that I would explain that is I work with the same principles as Chinese medicine. So very much as if you were to go and see an acupuncturist and they would talk with you about your meridian system or your chi or whatever, working with those same principles and using 5 elements. So the 5 elements in Chinese medicine are really just metaphors for a collection of characteristics. And to keep it simple, this is a science about the pattern, cycle, and flow of the natural world, of which we are part. And those patterns, cycles, and flow affect us, and they also affect our business. And depending on where we kind of came into the cycle and pattern and flow of all that, affects how we perceive the world around us, how we behave and interact with it. And it gives us a whole lot of information, both about ourselves and, as I said, about our business. So I'm not going to go on a long discourse of what 5 elements is. That's, you know, a lifetime project.
Maybe you could tell us the 5 what they are.
Yes, that much I will do. So the classic 5 elements from Chinese medicine are water, wood, fire, earth, and metal. Now, I don't ask my clients to learn and understand everything about 5 elements because, like I said, that's a big topic, and people spend lifetimes understanding it. But we want to know enough of what those characteristics are, like I said, that kind of that collection of characteristics that make up each element, so that we get a better understanding of ourselves, because awareness is really the foundation of this process. And when I talk about business, it gets much easier if we sort of left brain those terms. And so instead of talking about, well, the water in your business is, you know, that people can have a hard time keeping that straight, right? So especially when I talk about business, we're going to change those terms up a little bit. And I changed them to this. So in the classic 5 elements, we had water, wood, fire, earth, and metal, right? So when we left brain those terms for business, I'm going to be talking about dream, design, shine, streamline, and refine.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that.
Good, good. It makes it a little easier. We can kind of connect a little bit more with, okay, what's your dream, right? What's the dream, the goal, the thing that we're going for, right? Rather than trying to say, let's talk about your water. And yeah. Right, you know. And yet the process is so, it covers everything. And I always explain it as it is elegantly simple. I mean, there are only 5 elements, right? And it is exquisitely complex.
Oh, that's nice. I like that phrase.
So it's not cookie cutter at all, and yet we're able to grasp it because, like I said, it's only 5 elements, and it's the science of nature. We get nature, you know. We can understand how things grow in nature, so it makes it very usable, understandable, accessible for us. Yet, if we kind of change up those terms for the business part and talk about dream and design and shine, that makes it accessible for us on a business and a thinking standpoint too. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and then the fact that it is exquisitely complex, it's not just as simple as, Eliza, you and I have talked before about kind of going through an assessment like this. It's like me giving you a map and a flashlight. Okay, here you go.
Go somewhere.
You've got what you need, and it is really helpful because it is much better to have a map and a flashlight than to not, right?
Right.
We're off on a track and we're trying to get someplace, right? So it's definitely very helpful, and yet most of us know that this entrepreneurial journey is a lot more complex than that. And that's the beauty of this system, is that it addresses all those little exquisitely complex parts of it. And we don't expect people to fit an exact mold. You will be this way. Everyone with your same pattern will be this exact same way. No, it doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like you think about 2 oak trees. You know, they can be the exact same kind of oak tree. They could have come as acorns off of the same parent tree, right?
Identical twins, even.
Exactly, and yet they'll still grow individually, right? Based on the circumstances, the environment, the elements around them as they're growing, and people and businesses are the same. But we start with that original pattern, and what we know from that inner elemental design piece is, okay, what are the characteristics that I'm born with? And from that set of characteristics, I know I have the whole range of that characteristic, even if I've only been kind of living through my experience a part of it. So it opens up a whole boatload of possibilities for us, and it gives us an opportunity to kind of be more choosing and responding in our life than just reacting by default. Does that make sense for you?
It does, yeah, it does.
Okay, so with that said, let's take a look at this holistic business assessment here. And I'm thinking, do we want to weave in some of your particular elemental design right now at the beginning, or kind of talk about it as we move through? What would be most useful for you?
I think just like a sort of a brief overview of my personal, just to touch base on it, just to start there.
Right. So one of the things that I like to do with the elemental inner design is I find it really handy to have kind of archetypes for the individual elemental aspects that we have. It gives us something kind of quick that we can grasp onto mentally, right? So there are three areas that energetically our elemental design will show up. And the first thing that we get is kind of who we are overall. You know, when people meet us in the world, the way that they sense us or see us, and kind of our core identity, our core character. All right, so that's the first part. And then the second part that we get is more of our inner nature, our emotional nature. You might refer to that as an inner child. In psychological terms, they might phrase it that way. I refer to it as, that's kind of who we shift into when we're under stress. So a lot of times I'll refer to that as collectively as our stressed self.
Right. I heard you use that term.
Yeah, our stressed self. And then, as I say, because our stressed self is not always our best self, we aren't always exhibiting the best qualities of that element, right?
Right.
And remember, it's a range. It's a whole range of characteristics. So under stress, we aren't always exhibiting the best, expressing the best characteristics of that element. But it's really, really helpful, especially in business, to know what that element is and what those characteristics are. So when we find that we're in that place, it's like a big "you are here" on a map, right? It's
and then you go, oh, now I know.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. I usually go to the right here. Do I still want to do that? Or do I want, we get to make different choices.
Right. Once we have awareness, then we can see.
Exactly.
Then we can choose.
Yeah. So less struggle, less stress, more success, because we're able to be present and choosing instead, right?
Right.
Then the third aspect that shows up in our energetic elemental design is really, you might refer to it as a life purpose or a true calling. Chinese medicine might refer to it as our destiny. It's really who we're here to become. This part of us that we're sort of always growing into and expressing more of. Now, that doesn't mean that we leave off either of the other two, right? Of that, and we always have all of those aspects with us. It's just part of our growth path that we're becoming more and more of this. And right along with that comes that life challenge, that struggle that we'll always kind of have with us. And we may be mastering it, we may not be mastering it. And if I'll tell you, having been in so many masterminds and coaching programs and things, whenever I know somebody's elemental design and we're on a coaching call and somebody's asking questions for, having a problem with this, or this has come up for me, all those things that come up, right? It's like almost every single time it's coming out of some part of their elemental design that's more of that stressed self, or more of that life challenge, or more of the struggle piece. And knowing it just makes such a difference because we're able to handle it so much quicker. So, it's a really valuable information. So we get to know that for you personally, right? And then your business is like its own little entity, its own self. And it has an elemental design too. And so it'll have these same features, kind of that flavor of who it is, overall, what it is overall, right? What it is when it's going through struggle, right?
That was such a new idea. When we spoke the other day about that, I just so got it, because I just didn't ever see that.
Right.
And then you were like, it's like when you have a child, it's not you. It's like, oh, it's not me. It's like, oh. So I can't wait to find out what you found out.
Yeah. And we had kind of talked about trying to determine the elemental pattern for your business, right? And the way that we do this, the energetic piece of this, and I don't work with astrology or numerology, but I do want to know either when someone was born or when their business was started, because that tells me when they came into that cycle of patterns. Mm-hmm. And that then tells me, okay, what elements were present at that time, because it's like they imprint on us and we have them throughout life. So the same thing with your business. When your business was born from you, there were elements around at that time energetically, and they imprinted on it just as if it was a human baby being born, right? So everything, they're moving through everything. So anyway, it has its own identity, and very much like that parent-child relationship, it won't always behave the same as you, and that can be amazingly frustrating, right? Like with actual children who, you've seen the parents and the children, and like the children are just way different than the parent.
Yeah, and you go, what?
Yeah, and you're like, and the parents are really struggling to like, why won't you just do what I say? And the kid is just wired very differently, and it simply takes a different approach. But if we don't know that, it makes it much harder to find the right approach for the child, in this case for our business.
Right.
Right. So let's look at your elemental inner design, and we'll talk a little bit about archetypes and stuff, and then we'll talk about the business.
Okay.
For you, that overall, who we start with is, we want to look at that archetype as being a warrior or a change maker, someone who is here to set things right and take up the good fight. Or if they're not doing so well, just take up any fight. But the drive is to make things better. It's this lovely, pure desire to make things right, right, and good, and correct, and So when we talk about Nike, just do it. It's that get it done, and don't belabor things. Get to it. That's good, right. So that's the kind of the initial, right, and then that middle piece that we have, that inner child or that emotional self for you, is one that is very much a dreamer. It is an innovator, a deep thinker, highly emotional, and yet not surface drama emotions.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So much more inner work. And a lot of intuition can come out of that, a lot of imagination and creativity and fantasy. So those are lovely qualities, right? And yet we said that this is the one that we tend to shift into when we're under stress. So the way that can be expressed is that it isn't always the best characteristics of imagination and fantasy and creativity that we're expressing. It could be more, we're imagining the worst, we're going into fear, because fear is the emotion associated with that element. And so under stress, we can someone who has this element in this aspect of their makeup really retreat into fear, have great difficulty expressing that because it's deep, right? And it takes a long time to come out. So they're feeling it on the inside, not necessarily expressing it on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that can cause a lot of inner turmoil, but then also turmoil on the outside because the people around you aren't necessarily going to get it. And that experience will also feed into another characteristic of that element, is that it can feel isolated. It can feel not understood. Sometimes it can even feel abandoned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Suddenly it's like, I'm all on my own in this and nobody gets it.
Nobody gets it except Leah.
So it's good to know if those things come up, that isn't the whole story, right? That isn't the whole story. And without that understanding, it's so easy to just be swept away by that deep, deep feeling, right?
Right.
And to be off on that thought trail of imagining all the what ifs, and it can get not pretty quickly. So it's like, woo, to give us a kind of a safe harbor instead of being washed away when that happens. That's a really, really good thing. Now, the third
say that last piece again. How do you do a safe harbor? To have one? What did you say?
It's a really good thing to be able to have that safe
one. Yeah.
And safe harbor just, again, starts with that awareness, knowing, right? Knowing that I have that ability to not be washed away, that this is only part of me, and it's that inner child talking. And we've talked about it before. We'll probably talk about it some more through this, but do we want that inner child running our business?
Right. Yeah, I would not usually. No.
Not in that state, right? You want to bring in all the helpful aspects of that quality, not the I'm withdrawing and nobody understands me and I'm freaked out because I don't know what's that you don't want running the business, right?
Right.
Yeah. So safe harbor is when we can kind of ground ourselves from that and not get washed away. And awareness on that is the first step. Now, the third piece for you, kind of who you're here to become, to grow into, is a wonderful quality of visionary leader, very artistic, reaching out as a bit of a free thinker, and one who lifts others up and calls people to gratitude, to appreciation, to a sense of beauty in the world and harmony and kind of all of those good things. And, it's a lovely, lovely quality. It appreciates the fine detail and, the little touches and things, notices if the picture is hanging crooked, or the typo in that third paragraph in the second sentence, that type of thing, and that's great. Now, the challenge side of that is with all of this focus on everything being kind of this higher and raised quality, it can also get very much into when is it enough? When is it good enough? So it can get very, very stalled out in perfectionism, deeply self-critical, and could be critical of, the outer world as well, and just be very challenged around getting things done because it's not done well enough, right? So lots of stalling, lots of procrastination, and then, sorry, my cat is getting into things. Lots of stalling out, lots of procrastination, and it's the kitten, it's Flash.
It's Flash.
It's like it's always Flash. Right?
It's always Flash.
I want to call, and then there's Flash climbing behind me or something. He does that. Sassy. Okay, so perfectionism, how that can just rob days, weeks, months, years of stalling of, let me think about it some more, because it has great thinking and analyzing qualities and can stay in that mode very easily. Right? Okay. So, but these are, lovely, lovely characteristics. So we start off with that warrior who has a lot of creativity and deep intuition and a desire to lift people up in gratitude and appreciation. And what a beautiful package that is. And, when I talk with you and like your book that came out recently, Falling into Ease, how perfect is that? How perfect is that? It's just, we're always expressing our elemental makeup. And, hopefully we're expressing the upside qualities of it.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully we're going in that direction. And with awareness, we can be doing that on a more conscious level, which is great. But that's, we're always going to be kind of living that. So it gives us a great appreciation, I think, of the beauty in each other, and to have a compassionate understanding for each other when we can, and for ourselves, right? For ourselves, because we could get down on ourselves for falling into some of those more challenging aspects, right?
Right.
And to understand that it's not a fault, there's not something wrong with you, it's just part of that elemental makeup and a way that you have experienced it in life. And so that kind of habit of going and expressing it that way is formed in you. And with awareness, we can see that, and then we can decide, do I want to maybe do something else instead?
Right. Back down to the same thing. With awareness comes choice. Exactly.
And a lot of power, our greatest power, our power of choosing. All right, so if we look at your business.
Yes.
That baby has, a very different elemental makeup. Very different. And what happens occasionally is, there are the 5 elements, right? And for many of us, that each of those slots, just like it is for you, is taken by a different element, right? And although we all have all 5 elements, this particular aspect of us only, features 3, the energetic portion. Now, physically, when we look at us, the rest of us can be seen in our physical makeup, right? When we're dealing with a business and it doesn't really have a physical body, physical makeup, we go very much by the energetic piece of it. So we're going to look at those 3 places for each business. Now, for your business, as I said, it's very different. And this occasionally, this will happen with people too, right? So it's not just businesses, but with anything with an energetic elemental design, occasionally we have an individual or a business that doesn't have 3 separate characteristics. It has one element that appears in each of those places.
Okay.
So that makes it really, really strong in that particular element, right? A powerhouse in that element. And it also kind of triples the challenge of that same element, Because what is the strength is also the challenge. And you notice I say challenge instead of weakness, right?
Right.
I don't like to think of it as weakness. It's a challenge, but we learn from our challenge. We learn the most often from our challenges, right?
Right.
We can turn them to a hidden strength, right? So I really like that way of thinking about a challenge. It's that strength that we have to uncover first, right?
That's great, yeah.
So the elemental design for your business is, and it's kind of perfect when I think about you and I think about the business and what you want for the business to be and do and all that kind of stuff. The archetype that we would look at is very much a really soft-natured, loving earth mother type. The mama who's always got, come on, everybody pile into the lap. We're getting big hugs here. Just, has everybody got enough to eat? What do you need, honey? Let me take care of you. It's just that mom that is so loving. In Chinese medicine, they would refer to Kuan Yin, the goddess of compassion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a beautiful, everybody needs some of that in their life, right? And we didn't all have a mother that was that way. Some of us did and some of us didn't. And we can still, though, recognize that quality. That very nurturing, very loving, very giving, always there to take care of you. No, it's no trouble. Come on and, let me feed you. It's the middle of the night. It's okay. Do you need a blanket? What can I do for you? Right?
Right.
Very loving, very caring. So what's the challenge with that, right?
Well, it's not me.
It's that's very different from your own makeup, right?
Right.
And think about that mother who is always focused on taking care of others.
Right. There's not any self-care in that. There's not any the business's dreams, desires, not the goals, not goal-oriented. It's not any of that, right?
Well, a challenge for a mother like that is that kind of that first piece you said, the self-care.
Yeah.
Taking care of mom, because if mom doesn't get plenty to eat and plenty of rest and, is sufficient in caring for herself, it's really hard to care for the baby or the rest of the family, right?
Right.
And another way that I refer to this element is because it's an earth quality, right? So very soft, nurturing earth. And if we think of this as some really gorgeous, organic, really nutrient-rich garden soil, right? You can grow all kinds of things in that. And it's just a powerful medium for nurturing growth and living vibrant, beautiful things. Okay. And if that soil does not continue to get nourished and replenished in itself, it becomes depleted.
Yeah.
And then what is it able to do? Not much, right? It's not able to support the growth, to sustain the nurturing facility that it has normally, right? And so this very unhappy cycle then develops. Right? So it's really important for the mother to care for herself, and it's really important for the garden soil to be replenished. And that's one of the biggest challenges that that element has, is setting boundaries of care for itself as well as others. And emotionally, the way that that shows up is oftentimes it will come in as a lack of confidence, a feeling of not being able to do it all on one's own, right? I need help. I can't do this by myself, right? Somebody has to help me with this. And a feeling of, I never get any help. I have to do it all on my own, and no one is ever here to help.
Right. Right.
It can, there can be worry, a lot of worry around that, and concern in those types of ways. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And very different than your own makeup, right? Right. And yet, if you look at your business, can you see some ways where those aspects might have been showing up for you?
Yes. And when I was thinking about this, after we initially sort of touched base a couple of days ago, it was like, well, now, like almost a sense of, well, no wonder, because I've got this get it done, and my business has got this stalled out, like whatever it's like I can't get the momentum going. So that kind of helped me reframe. Oh, so not wrong with me. I just get to learn how to work with that. Right.
So this is like finding out, my child has different needs than I do.
Right. Now what am I going to do?
Right. My child approaches the world very differently than I do. So how do I deal with that, right? Because we can't change other people, right? And we can't change the elemental design of our business. It is what it is. So how do we work with it in the most effective way? And it's, 5 elements is all about relationships. And so we look at the relationship within ourselves, of our own elemental design, those parts of us. And then we look at our relationship with other people. And in this case, we're talking about our relationship with our business. And how do we get a harmonious relationship that is a win-win, right? So that we're both coming away stronger and better for that relationship. And with the business, we've talked about it being like that parent-child. Initially, a business like that baby is very, very dependent upon the mother or upon the parents, right? Completely dependent. And yet we don't want it to stay that way.
Right, please.
Children are meant to grow and to get to the point where they are able to sustain themselves. Eventually that child gets to the point where they can feed themselves and they can dress themselves and they can carry on their own interactions with the world around them without so much facilitation from us, without us having to bear as a parent so much of that responsibility. The child takes on its own responsibility. And eventually, if we talk about classic archetype, that child would grow and mature to an adult. And again, in classic archetype style, as it grows, it would then, as the parent grows, turn around and start caring for the parent much the way that the parent cared for it when it was, and that again is kind of classic archetype, right?
Right.
So in this case, what can happen is that baby, that business baby, can kind of get stalled out in dependent stages if we don't either have that understanding or if we don't just kind of luck out on, sometimes we stumble upon things that work, right? And have an unconscious competence with something, but it's unconscious. We don't really know why it's working. And it may go for a while and then suddenly it's not working and we don't understand that either. So we're looking for, all right, how do we get this baby back on a growth track again? Right.
Right.
Gotten kind of stalled out. Now, at this point, I want to bring in another feature that is really an important part of the work that I do with people when I work with them with their elemental makeup and with their business, and it weaves through all of this. And that's another way that these elements show up in the world around us. And it's the way that elements move through time. So there's the way energy moves through time. It's very much like the seasons in our atmosphere, our climate. And there's a cycle and a pattern and a flow to them, very regular, just like there is with winter, spring, summer, fall, right? And as this cycle moves through time, energetically, we're in sort of like a time season. And that is keyed to where we came into that cycle, right? So people can be in different cycles, and a person in their business can be in different cycles at different times. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that last part, because I'm like, well, yeah, but it's winter when it's winter, but it's only winter based on when you started.
Right. So since you and the business are kind of in a different cycle, really good to know what that is.
Yes.
Because it, and this is what I always explain to people, understanding what that energetic season is that we're in has a major impact on us personally and then on our business. And what it affects is very, very practical. So it sounds very conceptual, but what it affects is our planning, our actions, and our expectations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty basic, right? So I'll give you another example coming from nature, again, because this is a science of nature that we're working with here, right? So we want to grow something, and we go out and we start to dig up the soil and we're planting a garden, right? But we have no concept of climate, of weather, of seasons. And we go out and we're starting to do this in the middle of winter.
Not going to work very well.
Not going to work very well. Not if we're expecting springtime growth, right?
Right.
So if we know that it's winter, what does that change? Well, again, it changes our planning, our actions, and our expectations. So if we're determined to grow something in winter, and yet it's winter, you know what? Maybe we're going to get a greenhouse set up, which we would not need to do in spring, right?
Right.
Or we'll take some other type of action. We may start things indoors under grow lamps, or things like that. It's going to change our planning. It's going to change our actions, how we go about doing that. And it's going to change our expectations, because we're not going to be expecting bumper crop, shooting up, springtime growth. We're probably going to be expecting a smaller quantity, but maybe still a nice quality to it. Or, we've just made arrangements in another way so that we still get quantity, but we've gone about getting it differently.
Right, like the greenhouse or something different.
Like the greenhouse or something different. Give me just a second here. Flashes. Okay.
Flash was.
Flash was investigating a lamp cord, which does not make for a good chew toy. And, he's very determined. Okay, hang on. Okay. All right, since he has interrupted us, this is
hi, Flash. You just wanted to be part of the group, didn't you?
He gets into everything. He's like, this lamp cord makes a great toy.
Yes, no. Yes, no.
No, we don't play with electric things. No. All right, okay, so hopefully he'll behave now.
Just needed some mama attention.
The babies, right? They don't act the way you want them to.
Yeah, very much true. Most of the time.
Yeah. Interestingly, he has a very similar makeup to your business.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? All right. So we
okay.
talked about the seasons. We've talked about your elemental design and the businesses, and we kind of have. Does that aspect of the seasons make sense for you?
Yeah. Now I just want to know where I'm at and where my business is.
Right. Okay.
Then I have like 9 questions, but.
Okay. Great. All right. So we may not even get to the assessment at this point. That's okay. All right. So your particular season is a lovely one of. It's a lovely, hang on, it's a lovely season of, I'm back. It's a graduating energy. It is a season of maturing and stepping into a new level, right? And that has a lot of great characteristics to it. One of the challenges is it's also a time of letting go, right? Because if we are graduating, we're moving on from something to something else, right?
Yeah.
So it brings with it a new level. So there's a new sense of authority, and often that is recognized by others, so just like if you graduated, I'm now a graduate, you're at that new level and people recognize that for you, right? And you've left things behind in order to get there.
Right.
Because that's part of that stepping up in that growth process and the maturing process, right? We've left certain things behind and we're stepping in to something else. Fabulous. There are some challenges with it. And these are so quick. Even when we talked about the elemental makeup, we can do a whole day on that.
Right, exactly.
Easily fill a day on that. But this gives you a little bit, right? A little bit of understanding. Now that's your elemental makeup. And for like you personally in business, that's a really nice place to be, right? People are starting to see and recognize your work, especially with the latest book coming out. And, there's sort of that garnering of more authority and appreciation around who you are and the work that you do in the world. And that is really awesome, right? Very exciting. And the business is in a different season. So for it's in a season right now that a lot of times it can be a very intense season. In Chinese medicine, sometimes this particular season can be referred to as the same energetics as if you are standing eye to eye with the dragon. So like I said, a bit intense. It's a great time for like no sudden moves, right? So if you're standing there facing down the dragon, it's like, let's not do anything rash, rushed, get kind of crazy. It's a great time to let things come to you. And a lot of times it's also kind of like a little like being in the eye of the hurricane, right? There's a lot of activity and things all kind of swirling around you, and you're kind of at the center. It can bring great opportunity right to you without having to go out and find it, which is terrific.
Terrific. I'm ready for that.
Yes, stormy weather oftentimes, what does it do? It churns up all kinds of stuff, right? And sometimes that's really good. The things that come up from it. Not that a storm is great in and of itself, but what is revealed from it can be. It's a time that is great for relationships, and relationships formed during this particular time can often take very, very deep roots. So it's a great time to be firmly rooted and planted in things and to not go running off. Kind of crazy, right? So good time to be grounded. And if it's going to be an intense weather season, we want to be grounded, right?
Right.
We need to be kind of holding on. And so that's kind of where the business is right now. So an interesting time, and what we want to do is work with that energy and not against it. And I've talked, and you and I have talked about this before, that the way energy flows is very much like a current, right? And if we're going with that energy, if we're moving with it, that's one experience, right? And, it's like going down the river, right? That's good. We got the flow, wind to our back, and off we go, right? Well, if we're turned around, very different experience.
Right? Fighting.
Fighting the current, and, you're getting water up your nose, and it's not, it's not a pleasant experience, and much more challenging. It can be disorienting and frustrating, and we're not getting where we want to go, and we don't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to be fighting that current. We want to be going with it. So how do we go with both that graduating energy, and then for the business, that energy of, okay, let's be deeply rooted and kind of let things come into us, making, connections and relationships and building a lot of things that then in the next season we'll be stepping up and growing into, because that's the phase that the business will step into after this one, right?
One of growing.
Right. So it'll be stepping into the same cycle that you are in presently right now. So it's like a year, kind of like a year behind you in the way that those cycles work. And this is a yearly type of energy. So
that's what I was going to ask. What's the time? What is the cycle? Like annual, kind of, sort of?
Yeah, and it comes in very much like the seasons do, where one kind of bleeds into the next, right? And a tide changing, one is going out while the other is coming in. And I need some water too. And we'll start feeling that towards the end of the year, right? So think of it as like a calendar year type of basis. We'll start to feel it November, December. The old cycle is still weaning out in January, and then by February, the new cycle will be in. But we kind of get a little bit of overlap. So we still have several months of this particular energy, right, that we're in, that energetic season that we're in right now. Does that make sense for you?
It does. So as my business is going to come into more of the graduating completion, and then where am I headed from there? A new beginning, probably.
Yeah. No, actually, you're in the middle of the cycle right now. So when we talk about these 5 elements, we actually break it down for the cycle into 9. And I don't want to take too long with that because it gets kind of complex. But it starts off with water, and then we have a little bit of earth, and then we have a couple of years of a woody springtime energy, and then we've got some earth again, and then we've got a couple of years of a metal energy, and then we've got some earth again, and then we've got a fire energy. And that's the way that the cycles run through in a 9-year period. And I could do a whole teaching on that.
Yeah, I bet you could. Yeah.
Totally. And it's fascinating. Oh my goodness. Talk about connecting the dots in your life. When you start to learn about those seasons, and then you go back and you're like, that's why that year was so crazy. That's it. I get it now. It really makes a lot of sense for those things. But for you, you're still in the middle of the big cycle. Right now, the energy of this particular season, it's a metal element year.
For me.
Yeah, for you. And you'll continue with that into next year. Now, the flavor of it will change a little bit. So, but it's still going to kind of carry that energy. So it's taking it from graduating and maturing energy into one of appreciation and kind of a savoring, and it's a great place to be in gratitude and, well, appreciation. The way to work with that energy is to be in that space where you're noticing the things that have worked and the things that are going well, and kind of collecting all those things, the beautiful things in life, the way to work against that, to turn yourself around in that current, is to be focused on the things that aren't working and the areas that aren't enough and that have problems, and to shrink your life down and to go for like better living through denial. So it does work really well, So that would be going against the current. So for this year, for next year, the way to go with it is to step up with that graduating energy. Really accept that greater sense of authority, and to be that in yourself, and to accept others seeing it for you and in you, and to carry that on to the natural place that it would go.
Which is said that. I just
yeah,
and that was funny.
I'm graduating. Yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. So now for the baby, for the business, it's in that really intense year right now. So what we want to do, we talked about having it really grounded, really developing roots, and think about that. It can be very nurtured. That's how a plant gets nurtured, right? Is through its root system, and that's how it attains stability. And so there are a lot of good things that can be happening right now that will foster graduating and gaining new authority in the next year. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like what?
So relationships that it's building right now.
Yeah, okay.
Connections that it's building right now. Nurturing itself. So it's we're getting a bit of seeding in business, right? So things that will begin to come back to us in the next year. So yeah, we want things that are coming in now as well, right?
Right.
There's also a bigger picture to it. And that's what I'm talking about with this.
The bigger picture, really.
The things that we're doing right now for the business, we will be feeding it into it in that graduating energy more in the next year.
Okay, cool.
So that doesn't mean that we have to wait until next year to get good things coming back in.
Okay, good.
It means that what we're planting now can take deep roots that will have great benefit for long term. Okay, does that make sense then?
Yeah, so it's both. It's still a both and.
Right, very much so. Very much so. Yeah. And then we just look at, okay, how do we need to work with that? In fact, that's something that we ever get to talk about the assessment, we will go through.
I think this has been a fabulous call and will be really, really helpful to your watchers and listeners, and that we ought to probably schedule a call for the assessment. I
think we should. So you know what? Because we had talked about, we should probably go through a couple of things first. And look, we've spent like nearly an hour doing that. It's deep information, and we've only covered, just a little bit of it. So let's talk about, we won't do the assessment today, because there's not time to really get deep into it. So
yeah, because I have about 5, maybe 10 at the most.
Yeah. So we'll wrap up with this, but we'll schedule another time to do the assessment, because we want to see, okay, now that we've got this understanding, how does that work into the business in a bigger picture? So one thing that will take you through is the dream, design, shine, streamline, and refine.
Yes.
Just to kind of get an idea of what that is. Okay. And we go through the assessment, that's a lot of what we cover is, okay, what's going on in each of those aspects? And we look at you, and we look at the business and how we're playing together in that. So when we start off with the dream, we're wanting to know, what is the dream? Because it all starts with that. Mm-hmm. Dream. What is the goal, the plan, the thing that we're going for, right?
And the big one you're really looking for here, right? Not how do I generate money this month, but really the why, really the big dream.
Right. Now we can also get much smaller and look at, okay, what is this for this month, right? Because this is the five elements process. It's running all the time in everything, right? So it's running in the teeny tiny things, and it's running in the great big things, right? Like the universe. So
okay,
everything in between.
Just that.
Just those little things. So for you, really, though, when we start with that, we want to talk about, and people will say, well, what's your why, right? And this kind of ties in with that, because this is the thing that fuels everything that comes after it. If the dream is not clear and strong, the design, the plan, the structure, the shape of the business cannot grow, right? It's like you've got a seed with no water. It just sits there inert, right? It can't begin to take its natural shape because it doesn't have the water, the very water of life to get it going, right? So that dream is really, really important. And then if we don't have the design piece, then there's no shine, there's no connecting with others. And then there's nothing to bring back in, because then there's been no connection with others. And then there's nothing to refine and make better, because, so everything starts with the dream. And what I see happen a lot for people is they have part of the dream, right? But it's not necessarily really clear, and it's not necessarily really strong.
Mm-hmm.
So they struggle getting the design set up for their business. And then when they get into the shine, which is all about connecting and communicating, and how we are presenting and how people are seeing us, and all, that really relationship starts, really going there, touching other people's hearts, then that's not happening, right? If that dream is not clear, because people don't know what we're saying, and we don't know what we're saying, and, boy, haven't we been there, right? What entrepreneur hasn't?
Right.
How do I tell people what I do? It'd be a nightmare that can go on for years. I've done that. Totally. Yeah, so it's really important. So we start with the dream. And when that is clear and that is strong, think of that like a steam engine, right? It's going to have the power to keep you going through all the tough spots, through all the resistance that comes naturally in any growth process.
Mm-hmm.
So we start with the dream, and then we look at the design, which is how the business is shaped and the structure it's taking, what kind of business it is, how it's going to grow, what it needs to grow, and the actions that it takes to get that growing done, right? So a lot of those pieces there. And then the shine, as I said, is how we connect with others. And Nash is at it again. The joys of working from home, right?
Right.
So back to shine. Okay, so how we connect with others, how we communicate, how we speak and present our message, how we visually present our message, the energy that we're coming across to people with. Again, if the design is weak or if the dream is weak, there are going to be problems with that. And then if we're not doing that, we don't really have anything to connect and come back into our business, right?
Right.
If we're not being able to connect with clients, there's not a sale, there's not something else coming through, right? So how do we bring that all in? Now, if we are successfully connecting with other people, then there should be sales coming in, there are connections and relationships being made, and now we get into the streamline portion. And streamline is taken very literally, because this is referring to Earth in the 5-element aspect. And part of Earth's job is to support and contain water, right? So it supports,
which is the dream, right? Water's the dream.
Right, it supports the dream. So it gives a container to that dream, that vision. And we need that container, right? We need to have is structuring our business to hold, take care of our clients, and the bank account to put the money that's coming in, and all of the pieces of that. So it gets very practical, tactical daily life. And then it's also about the relationships that are forming that support those activities and that are nourished by and are nourishing to those relationships and activities. All right.
So what is the design? I would have guessed that was earth.
Design is actually wood.
Oh, and design is wood. Okay.
So that's actually think of that as like the plant actually growing.
Like the trunk kind of, and
the trunk and the leaves and the all of that kind of stuff. It's the shape that the business is going to take.
Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of the shape and the structure and the actual growth, the actual growing of the business.
Okay.
So lots of action taking is as part of that design.
Okay, cool.
And then we come to the last piece, which is refine. So we started with the dream, and it started to take shape through the design, and it's connecting with others in its shine process, and we're getting something back because we had successful connecting with others, and so we've got that in our streamline, and now we come to refine. And refine is about, how do we make this easier? How does it get better? Where do we need to smooth out parts of this process and bring it to a higher level, right? So polishing, appreciating, up-leveling, and suddenly we're back at the beginning.
I kind of am feeling a sense of like some pruning and some shaping.
Exactly. And now here's the interesting piece of that, because metal's job is to control wood, right? So with our refining process, we're going to go back and look at that design and see, where do I need to reshape this? Yeah, so it all kind of flows very naturally through that. And then once we kind of have decided on those things, like I said, we're kind of back at the beginning of the dream. Now it's the next level of that.
Right. And then rinse and repeat.
Yeah. Repeat, because it's that whole cycle. So you can see where we do that very much big picture, and then we may be doing it in a smaller picture with a monthly goal or whatnot. So there's all that. So these are the things that we'll work through when we look at the assessment.
Awesome.
We'll start off with the basics of where are you, in your business and your personal life, and we'll look at where you want to go, and we'll look at some of the things that have been kind of getting in the way. And there can be a lot of resistance pieces that can come up with that. We've got personal resistance, and then the business will have its own resistance. And I refer to resistance as a gift in ugly wrapping.
Okay.
We get the gift when we unwrap that ugly wrapping, right?
So yeah.
The way that we approach it, and it's taking that challenge and turning it into a hidden strength, taking it out, putting it in a place where we can really use it. And then we'll go through and we'll look at, okay, how are you doing in these aspects? Dream, design, shine, streamline, refine. And depending on how things are going with this system, we also know where to look to fix the areas that aren't functioning quite as they should be, right?
Yeah. Wow, awesome.
Yeah, so there's lots and lots to cover.
Yeah.
And I think it's funny that we'll do a quick run through.
And then, but I think this was important for me, but really important for anybody who watches and listens. I think this just became a beautiful introduction video.
Great.
Whether they already sign up and then watch it, or you just put it, who knows what you can do with it. But do we stop the recording?
Yeah, I think we can.
Do you want to wrap up with some words, and I'll stop the recording?
Yeah, so let's, one thing I want to say about this is you can see why this is, a deep dive process. and we could have a little conversation where we talk about your elemental design, or we have a little conversation where we talk about your businesses. And those little nuggets of information are very helpful and useful, but this is a much, much bigger thing. And why I wrap this into a bigger program, whether it's a deep dive day or a retreat, process, or, a 90-day, or, this can stretch an entire year. There's so much to this. And that's why it's like, you kind of need an experience of it to see how does it all tie in. Now, let me ask you this question real quick as we wrap up. So if you had had some of this information earlier in the course of the business, would that have been helpful to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. Would have been very helpful.
Yeah. Probably would have changed the way maybe you made some decisions, or
I think it would have changed probably like potentially everything, because what I've done, looking back, is I've just like thrown that dart in the middle of the night onto that map and said, oh, wow. And even just this introduction, it's like, oh no, but there's a science to the art. And then I imagine an art to the science.
Very much so.
Yeah, very helpful.
Yeah.
I think everybody should do this, Leah.
I would think so too. And from what I have seen and from what I have experienced, this shaves years off of the learning curve.
Yes.
That learning curve is very expensive,
yep.
Because it's
time and energy and money.
Across the board. So it's really a game changer. And if I hadn't gone through the experience myself, my 20 years of working with 5 elements, and then when I was transitioning my own business, kind of going through this, and how this process, Dream, Design, Shine, how that all kind of came to be, I think it's a real game changer. And I'm very happy to be able to, bring it out to people now and let them experience it. So lovely people like you can be getting your work to the world in a more timely manner, for you and for the people you serve, right?
Exactly. The time is now. And, you're the one. So let's do this.
Yes, this has been great. And I'm really looking forward to when we get to finish the assessment. And, we can maybe pick up and film that too, and people can kind of see how it works through. And I mentioned to you before, there's some exciting things that we can do with this.
Yes.
So
I can't wait.
I'm looking forward to talking with that. So
Thank you so much, Leah. I'm going to stop the recording.
Thank you, Aliza.
Thank you, Leah. Bye-bye.